The first American farmers may have lived here in southern Mexico and Central America, an area we call Mesoamerica. By 1000 BC, civilization was emerging in Mesoamerica. Now we will look at one expression of that civilization, the ancient Mayas. These are Maya Indians today. Living in Guatemala and southern Mexico, they number in the millions. Most worked the land in the way of their ancestors, planting corn, beans, squash. For over the centuries, little has changed for the Maya. Some women even use the traditional grinding stones, the mano and metate, to grind their corn into flour. All of these habits are part of the modern culture of the Maya. They are justly proud of their culture and their past, for it's the ancestors of these humble peasants who created one of the world's greatest civilizations. Buried deep in the jungles of Mesoamerica, the ancient civilization of the Mayas was lost from memory for hundreds of years. In fact, almost nothing was known of this lost civilization until 1839, when two jungle explorers discovered what seemed to be the remains of ancient walls hidden in the forest. As they cleared away the trees and vines, strange buildings began to take shape. One of the explorers, John Stevens, described the ruin as lost, buried, and unknown, never before visited by a stranger. He said, all was dark, impenetrable mystery. Fortunately, Stevens' companion, Frederick Catherwood, was an artist and made detailed drawings like this one of everything they saw. But it would take scientists another century to begin to understand the history of the Mayas. The beginning of Maya civilization is still shrouded in mystery, but scientists believe that it grew in part from a still older civilization called the Olmec. Hidden in jungle on the Gulf of Mexico, explorers have found huge carved heads, curious remains of the lost Olmec civilization. Some of these heads are 9 feet tall and weigh over 20 tons. Explorers have also found Olmec masks carved from pure jade, one of the hardest stones known to man. Olmec craftsmen must have worked thousands of hours to carve and polish jade figures such as these. The Olmecs were highly civilized, produced fine carvings, and even had a written language, but mysteriously, in about 300 BC, the Olmec civilization disappeared. As the Olmecs passed from the scene, the Mayas, who had lived for centuries in these tropical forests, began to build a new civilization. By about AD 100, stone temples were beginning to rise above the trees. The Mayas lived here, in eastern Mesoamerica. They established a network of cities such as Huachactún, Bonampak, Palenque, and the south, Copan. And in the center of this network lay the fabled city of Tikal. Tikal was a stunning city, crowded with exotic temples, palaces, and plazas. By AD 700, the city sprawled across 10 square miles. Rising from the primitive rainforest, Tikal must have seemed like a vision from a dream. Most of the buildings were plastered and painted red, and their tops were decorated with wildly painted carvings. Today, Tikal is a mysterious ruin, almost completely swallowed by jungle. Trees and vines cover most of the buildings, but if one looks closely at the ruined walls, bits of the original plaster and red paint can still be seen. Hundreds of scientists, called archaeologists, have spent many years studying these ruins, searching for clues about the ancient Mayas. Some of the main buildings have been cleared of trees and vegetation. The tallest buildings were the religious temples. Near the temples, large palaces were set gracefully around lovely open courtyards. Archaeologists are not sure what the palaces were used for. They could have been residential houses where priests and rich people lived, or they could have been government office buildings used by the rulers. Pictures of the rulers were carved onto large stone monuments called stelae, which were erected near the temples and palaces. The narrow court between these sloping walls was used to play a kind of sacred ball game. Every Maya city had at least one, often several, of these ball courts. Ball games were played throughout Mesoamerica in ancient times. As in soccer, the game was played without the use of hands. A rubber ball was struck with the knees, hips, and elbows. Rubber came from the sap of the rubber tree. The Maya sliced the bark and collected the sap that ran out.